morning, Flowery Branch. I'm Carly Collette.
And I'm Elizabeth Derricott.
And you're tuned in to Beyond the Charter. It seems that gender is an issue in the Jordanian parliament, with an altercation, speaking of such, going viral. CNN spoke with Parliament's Hind Al-Fayez.
The parliament session in Jordan has gone viral on social media because of this altercation. A few members, it has to be said, male members, repeatedly asked female MP Hind Al-Fayez to sit down to allow another member to speak. Instead, she continues to protest, asking for her mic to be switched on. That prompted Yahya Al-Saud, the man on her left, to curse her and use the quote referring to the mandatory allocation of some seats to women. He was asked to apologize. Instead, he repeats his statement to some laughter and applause. The session was dismissed. The hashtag #SitDownHint has been trending in the Arab world, with many poking fun at the exchange with memes and the rest of it. Here are a few of the images. You can see a few members of parliament with thought bubbles praying for Hind to sit down. Here's a popular picture from the movie 300 with a caption, "Come on, Hind, sit down," and a picture of Hind herself reading, "I'm not sitting." Let's hear from the woman at the center of this story, Jordanian Parliament member Hind Al-Fayez. She joins me now live from Amman with more. What was going through your mind when this was all happening in Parliament, Mrs. Al-Fayez, when you had that member of Parliament quoting, essentially insulting your presence there by saying he is opposed to the idea of a quota in the Jordanian parliament? What were you thinking?
First of all, thank you for having me. And unfortunately, the entire incident was before that, defending the pan-Arab nationalism, and we are talking about a very important and severe issue that Jordan is going through, you know, about importing the Israeli gas. So we were extremely provoked by those two issues. And I was really surprised by having my fellow MP changing the subject into the female quota, which is also a very important issue for the Jordanian. And what I had in mind, and you can see the way I was staring at him, what are you talking about? We are now MPs, no matter what. If I won through the quota, if I won through the national list, by the end of the day, I'm a parliamentarian now. You judge me by my performance. You judge me by my achievements, not by being a female or male.
And
so I was wondering, and looking at him, wondering.
I was going to ask you, he was asked to apologize, the MP Yahya Al-Saud. Has he done so?
The female caucus at the parliament, they boycotted the session the very next day, and we asked Yahya Al-Saud to apologize, but the Speaker of the House,
Before the Brooklyn Nets and Cleveland Cavaliers faced off in a basketball court on Monday night, several players were already scoring points with protesters outside the arena.
A potent message from the NBA's 2011 MVP. And he's not the only professional athlete. In the NFL, Washington Redskins defensive lineman Chris Baker making the hands up, don't shoot gesture after a play. Detroit Lions running back Reggie Bush wore an I can't breathe warm-up shirt before the game. There's been virtually no backlash, a big difference from the reaction to the hands up gesture by the St. Louis Rams. Criticism from police groups to even some fans who burned Rams merchandise this weekend. The world has seen athletes as civil rights figures before. This potent image in the 1968 Olympics, the Black Power salute in the midst of the civil rights movement, the athletes' medals later revoked. It is these very visible moments that can help shape a national conversation.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of, I mean, they're role models. And a lot of people follow what they do. That's his platform. I mean, that's Derrick Rose's platform. It's his basketball court is where he does his work and where he's the most visible. And that's the time, if you're going to do it, to do it.
Other players also following Rose's lead. The NBA's most prominent player, LeBron James, in the warm-up between the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Brooklyn Nets, put on a black T-shirt with the words, "I can't breathe." Kyung Law, CNN, Chicago.
The CDC is on the case for this year's flu vaccine, which may not be a good match for this year's strand of the virus. ABC's Robin Roberts discussed the subject with Dr. Richard Besser.
About this year's flu vaccine, the CDC says it may not be a good match for this season's strain of the virus. ABC's chief health and medical editor, Dr. Richard Besser, is here. So tell us what's going on, Richard.
Yeah, so this is a big alert to doctors. It's early in the flu season, but the CDC has already looked at more than 1,000 flu viruses. And it's something called the H3N2 strain, which causes bad flu years. And the bad news is 52% of those strains are not a good match for what's in the vaccine because of mutations that have taken place in flu. And they're concerned that people won't be as well protected this year.
You know, people are waking up and saying, so what do I do? Do I get the flu shot? Do I not get the shot? What do I do?
You know, I understand the concern. The CDC is saying still get the vaccine. And I think that's good advice because it should provide some protection. But here's what they're saying that's a little bit different. If you're in a high-risk group, doctors are recommending that within 48 hours of developing flu symptoms, they start you on an anti-flu medication. So that's for children under 2, people over 65, people with medical problems like heart disease, lung disease, immune problems. Pay attention to whether flu's in your community. If you develop those symptoms, call your doctor and get on the medication early.
Great advice as always. You'll be on Twitter to answer everybody's questions?
I will. I'll be there right now.
All right. Thanks so much, Rich.
When we return, a promise from President Obama. Stick around. You're watching Beyond the Charter.
Time. Time plays a role in everyone's life.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. All right, awesome.
4 years of yours goes into high school. If you cut that time short, you'll find yourself struggling for employment. Don't clock out too early.
Personal, poignant promise to the American people. Monday, vowing to continue to fight to improve racial tensions in America, given the particular experience he brings to the office.
When it comes, as we've seen unfortunately in recent days, to our criminal justice system, too many Americans feel deep unfairness when it comes to the gap between our professed ideals and how laws are applied on a day-to-day basis. You know, I should mention, before I came here, I had a chance to speak with Mayor de Blasio in New York, and I commended him for his words yesterday and for the way New Yorkers have been engaging in peaceful protests and being constructive. He was just in the White House with us on Monday as we started taking some concrete steps to strengthen the relationship between law enforcement and communities of color, and I intend to take more steps with leaders like him in the months ahead. But beyond the specific issue that has to be addressed, making sure that people have confidence that police and law enforcement and prosecutors are serving everybody equally, there's the larger question of restoring a sense of common purpose. And at the heart of the American ideal is this sense that we're in it together, that nobody's guaranteed success, but everybody's got access to the possibilities of success.
A supposed act of aggression has Syria and Iran jointly condemning a pair of Israeli airstrikes on Syria's capital. Fox's Connor Powell reports from Jerusalem.
Syria and Iran jointly condemning a pair of Israeli airstrikes near Syria's capital, Damascus, over the weekend. Officials for both of the countries call it an act of aggression similar to ISIS. Sources tell Fox News, however, that Israel was targeting a shipment of weapons bound for the terror group Hezbollah. Connor Powell is live in our Mideast Bureau with some details on all of that. Connor.
Well, John, Israel has launched several airstrikes in the past in Syria as the revolt against President Bashar Assad has really heated up in the last few years. Now, like the previous times, Israeli officials are refusing comment. They're staying quiet, but this does follow a similar pattern that we've seen in the last 4 years or so. Now, Syrian State TV has said Sunday that Israel launched a series of airstrikes outside Damascus and along the Syrian-Lebanese border. The video you're seeing is from a Syrian news organization, which says the video is of the aftermath of these strikes. Now, Fox News can't independently verify the video. The targets are believed to have been a warehouse full of sophisticated surface-to-air missiles about to be transferred from the Syrian regime to Hezbollah fighters. Syria condemned the attack, calling it an act of aggression, but said no one was injured, though there are reports in the Arab media that 2 Hezbollah fighters were in fact killed. Now, similar airstrikes, Syria has always vowed to retaliate, but despite the tough talk, really they've done nothing in the last few years after Israel has launched these attacks. Now, it has been a long-standing policy for Israeli officials to say they will not allow the transfer of weapons from the Syrian regime to Hezbollah fighters and other militants, and Israeli officials today not commenting, but saying again that that is the policy, and they will continue to enforce it, John.
Shot and killed a 12-year-old boy who had lived in the Cleveland police officer Timothy Loneham resigned from another police job after supervisor described him as a distracted and weepy, emotionally and immature.
Posted by the St. Louis County Police, not in Cleveland, but the surveillance video shows a boy walking near a playground. He's 12-year-old Tamir Rice, and he's playing with a toy, an airsoft gun that from a distance can look like a real gun. A bystander calls 911.
And there was a guy and there was a pistol, you know, it's on his face, but he's like pointing it at everybody.
Less than 2 seconds after police drive up, the 12-year-old, again carrying a toy, is shot and killed at close range. The 26-year-old police officer who shot him, Timothy Lohman, had only recently been hired by the Cleveland Police. At his previous job at the Independence Police Department, Officer Lohman's personnel records show he was in the process of being fired. His supervisor describing an emotional meltdown and behavior that shows a pattern of a lack of maturity, indiscretion, and not following instructions. But the Cleveland Police never asked to see Lohman's personnel records, a policy the department says has now changed. Tamir Rice's death, the backdrop as the Department of Justice laid out a stinging report on the Cleveland Police Department.
The investigation concluded that there is a reasonable cause to believe that the Cleveland Police engage in a pattern and practice of unreasonable force in violation of the Fourth Amendment.
The investigation took 2 years, finding Cleveland police officers use unnecessary and unreasonable force at a significant rate, including officers who shoot at people who do not pose an imminent threat of serious bodily harm to officers, that they hit people in the head with their guns where use of deadly force is not justified, and that there are systemic deficiencies, failures by higher-ups to investigate officer-involved shootings.
We found, frankly, that sometimes a rubber stamp mentality or approach exists to these kinds of incidents of excessive force. And when accountability falters, trust also falters.
A federal court will now keep tabs on the Cleveland Police as part of a legal agreement. While the announcement was set in Cleveland, the Attorney General says, as seen in Ferguson and in New York, the problem is not contained by city limits.
The tragic losses of these and far too many other Americans have really raised urgent national questions. And they have sparked an important conversation about the sense of trust that must exist between law enforcement and the communities that they serve and protect.
And just to give you a sense of the outrage that's out there, there was a Facebook post and tweet posted by the St. Louis County Police, not in Cleveland, but the St. Louis County Police. And this tweet essentially said, quote, kids will be kids, counseling parents on making sure that their kids don't play with realistic-looking toy guns outside. Well, this was immediately slammed in social media, Aaron. The police removed it, saying that it
Stay with us. When we return, a CIA report reveals 911 interrogation tactics. We will be right back.
I know who they are, but
A CIA torture report about to be released has the world on their toes. The report will reveal interrogation and torture tactics used in 9/11. ABC's Martha Radatz brings more information.
Torture about to be made. I thought it was 911. There's not a slash.
That's my bad.
High alert right now. Afraid these new details will spark a backlash. ABC's chief global affairs anchor Martha Radatz has all the latest. Good morning, Martha.
Good morning, George. There is great concern this morning about the potential for violence in reaction to this shocking report, especially in the Mideast and North Africa. Cables have been sent to all diplomatic and military facilities, urging them to review all security procedures. The CIA and the Bush administration have already faced extensive investigation and criticism for interrogation techniques that included waterboarding. That was stopped years ago, of course, but this report coming out of the Senate Intelligence Committee provides far more detail never heard before, which is described to ABC News as very graphic, George, and very disturbing.
Which is why there could be such a backlash. And Martha, on that failed rescue attempt of the U.S. hostage, the American hostage over the weekend, we're learning more details, including some tragic details. The South African prisoner may have been on the verge of release.
So sad, George. A South African humanitarian group was just hours away from Pierre Corky's release, having negotiated for months. But of course, he, like American Luke Summers, was executed by the al-Qaeda terrorists in this raid. This morning, the U.S. ambassador to South Africa told the Associated Press that American officials were not informed of those negotiations when SEAL Team 6 went in to try to rescue the men. Ambassador Patrick Gaspard saying this morning, we were just completely unaware of those developments and had to act hastily. Al-Qaeda had released a tape saying Summers would be executed within 72 hours. So the U.S. clearly knew the threat was imminent, George.
Just heartbreaking. Okay, Martha, thanks very much.
For 12 years, Rabbi Emmelich Goldberg worked at a camp for children battling cancer. He often witnessed the pain and discomfort many of them endured while undergoing medical procedures.
Our daughter, Sarah Basia, was diagnosed with leukemia. It was a week before her first birthday. She was such an incredible little soul who taught me about the power that's inside of ourselves. After our daughter passed away, I was so privileged to extend that lesson to thousands of children across the globe.
My name is Haley Walls, and I am 9 years old.
When children get a diagnosis like cancer or any major disease, they lose any sense of feeling that they're controlling their lives.
The shots, they really scared me a lot, and they still scare me now.
It's okay.
Oh, God!
It's okay.
I don't like this.
They're prodded and poked and touched, and they're often so afraid.
Look at me.
The child looks at you for help, and then you end up having to hold them down.
Are you ready? Yes, okay, begin. Go.
When children have the tools, they're able to really face down so much of the fear, the anger, and the junk that accompanies pain.
Good. Every single type of martial arts uses the breath to take control.
Hold it, and then release, bringing that power in and pushing out all the bad stuff. We reassign that sense of control to the child. Today, Haley is going to take an MRI. We're going to help Haley bring in that tremendous energy. Now take your hands and put them like you're pushing your energy through Haley. Feel all of this power that's coming through you, and that energy is going to allow you to feel so powerful today.
When they bring in the shot, can you tell me to close my eyes?
Sure. You just start your breathing. You're totally in control. Feel your power coming. When we are able to breathe through pain and picture the pain lowering,
and push it out. Amazing.
The brain has the capacity to put us into a different place.
The way I breathe in the light is I think of all the happy thoughts, and then I think of the bad thoughts and blow them away.
Hey, you did it! You were great.
I am so humbled by these children. And you can see that light on their face.
I'm so proud of you, sweetheart. You're the best.
I feel like their souls are shining.
I do have the power to make the pain go away, and nothing's impossible. Nothing.
Critical infrastructure may be in danger of hackers, but United States facilities are prepared to keep themselves safe. CNN's Deborah Fayrick reveals tactics.
And when you pick up a diet soda, the sweetener you're most likely to guzzle down is aspartame, which is composed of 2 amino acids, aspartic acid and phenylalanine. Got it? Huh? Now, one of the more popular rumors about the sweeteners in diet soda is that it can cause cancer. And while there have been a few studies that link different sweeteners to cancer in rats, scientists don't think there's the same risk in humans. But this doesn't mean that these fake sugars don't do some funky stuff to our bodies. Sweeteners such as aspartame actually trigger our body's taste receptors and trick them into believing it's sugar. So, according to researchers at Purdue University, artificial sweeteners in diet sodas fulfill your body's sensory cravings for sweets. And, as advertised, they don't deliver the calories. But this is the problem. Diet sodas are actually crying wolf to your body. When this happens, your body becomes confused about how to respond when it's expecting sugar and doesn't get it. This has real physiological effects, and your body doesn't release the hormone that regulates blood pressure and blood sugar. Also, these sweeteners weaken the reward center of the brain, which could actually lead to increased appetite and overindulgence on real sweets. So the study found that artificial sweeteners can actually lead to weight gains. Wait, that's not what I signed up for. Now, it's worth noting that the American Beverage Association has disputed the reports, calling it an opinion piece.
Well, we may not have tactics, but we sure do have Coke. We're going to cut it to Elizabeth now.
The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge arrived in New York City on Sunday as they begin a 3-busy-day visit to the United States.
We've got the camera down by the door, which you may be able to switch to as they
yeah,
get out.
Our viewers are watching that, Max, so they can see them about to come out of the motorcade. What else can you see?
There you have it. All I can see is William coming around the other side of the car. I was told that the Duchess is wearing a seraphine coat, which is a specialist pregnancy designer. So lots of interest in what she wears as ever. Crowds literally running across the road now. Police have pretty much lost control, but it's a very calm crowd. It's not like some of the protests we've been having here.
And we're seeing
so
them
they
now.
just go straight into the hotel, and then they get ready for their dinner.
We're seeing them now walking in, but you know who we're not seeing is their son. So traveling without Prince George.
Yeah, basically it's a very intense series of events over 2 days, so more than 10 events over the days, spread between 2 cities, and they decided it wasn't appropriate to bring him. So because they weren't taking him, they also want to get back to him quickly as well.
All videos displayed in today's show are gathered from news stations around the country. Via Internet are displayed and no copyright infringement are intended.
This has been a wonderful show today. Follow us on social media at Beyond the Charter for updates, and drop us an email about a story from around the country you'd like to see us bring to the branch. Studentbody at wfbnn.info@gmail.com. Subject # Beyond the Charter.
Until tomorrow, I'm Elizabeth Ericott.
And I'm Carly Collette. Have a great day, Falcons.
We're live in 5, 4, 3.